All right. Hey, welcome to the neighborhood. I'm so excited. I have a guest, an author, a high priestess. She does all of that. And she is here today, and we're going to talk about her book. We're just going to talk about her. We're going to have girlfriend time. I'm drinking some tea. I'm sorry. Here we go. Hoodoo Grimoire. We're going to talk about that and some other books she has. And I'm also just going to pull a card to help me kind of relax because I'm so excited she's here. But I did pull one card from the Oshun's Faces of Oshun, and I'll show y'all the card. I love this deck, and today is about rebirth, transformation, and renewal, which I feel like I am going through a rebirth because I'm stretching myself. Doing this interview is a stretch for me, and I'm challenging myself to do things I haven't done before. So it's all of that. And you are along on the journey. And I challenge you to go ahead and start those things you haven't started, those dreams, make them manifest by getting what the Nike says, just do the dang thing. And so it is. I'm sipping my lavender tea and just going to enjoy this conversation with Mika. Welcome, Mika.
Hello, hello,
Hello,
hello.
hello. I'm so glad you decided to be gracious and do this with me. Thank you and welcome.
Happy to be here.
Great, great. Okay, well, we're just going to get started. I'm going to let you introduce and tell us a little bit about yourself, your history and background, and that kind of thing.
All right. Well, I'm Mika of Leap Taken. Here on YouTube, I have a channel called Leap Taken where I talk all things witchy, esoteric, craft related, manifesting and everything else in between. I'm also a cottage witch. Actually a practicing hoodoo root worker because I tie that into my cottage witchery. I live in the desert heat in Arizona. I'm also a writer, a mentor, a teacher of witchcraft. I lead a virtual coven as a high priestess. Leap Taken is the name of our coven. I do sell my custom book of shadows and grimoires. I'm also a budding novelist. I create YouTube content because I also have a second channel called Magical Lifestyle of a Cottage Witch. That's where I kind of show more than tell. And it blends real life magic and everyday living. And yeah, that's me. I have a background in just always asking why. That's how I got to where I'm at. I always ask why. I always wanted to understand. Um, and if I didn't understand, if I didn't get an answer, I just kept digging. I have a thirst for knowledge. I always want to know more. Um, and I still do. I'm still doing that. And I exhibit that at Leap Taken. I'm constantly trying to challenge myself and kind of lead others with me on my quest to understand and learn more things. But ultimately, I started off initially as Wiccan many years ago, many moons ago. And that didn't quite fit where I was going spiritually. And I called myself an eclectic witch for many years. Surprisingly, I didn't work with any deities. I didn't do any of that. It just never fit for the longest time. And eventually, over many years, I discovered, I shouldn't say I discovered, they discovered me. I work with different, I'll start with saying more feminine archetypes initially,
Mm-hmm.
then working with goddess energy. And now I work with all different types of deities today.
Wow, thank you, because you kind of went through things and you are a Renaissance woman, definitely doing all that you do and wearing the many hats.
Mhm.
And you kind of touched on this, but I kind of just want to go back a little bit. Do you identify as a witch and what type? You kind of talked about that and you talked about hoodoo, but tell me about how you fit hoodoo in your practice.
For me, my hoodoo practice within my cottage witchery has everything to do with my ancestral ties because I was
Mm-hmm.
born in America. My ancestors are part of the Atlantic slave trade. Not to laugh, but they are. So that's why I'm
Yeah,
here. So it is sort of my birthright uh, to practice hoodoo. I know everybody doesn't see it that way, but the funny thing is, it comes out whether you think you're practicing it or not, whether you think you're,
definitely.
it's passed down. It's the unspoken. It's hard to teach hoodoo because
It
you
is.
sort of have to be of hoodoo. So being someone who my practice is so much centered around the home, domestic magic, as it would modern words we would use. Because of that, I automatically tie into my hoodoo.
Yes,
And
yes.
it's just pervasive through my practice. So from the casual observer, you might look at some of the things I'm doing. You're like, oh, she's just doing all the other stuff the other hearth witches and cottage witches do. But if you look a little closer, and if you're probably if you're African American, then you see something else. You see those other things that others may not just understand, they may not get.
Definitely. And I do feel like hoodoo is like you said, it's ingrained in us. It's a part of us. And it's really a lifestyle. Like it becomes a lifestyle for you. And you talked about I in some of in your book, and you've had a YouTube video which I loved
Mhm.
that I kind of, wanted to connect and do this. You talked about being a modern hoodoo practitioner. Can you describe what that means to you and
Mhm.
how that may differ a little bit from like traditional hoodoo?
Okay, so to start, I still use a lot of the traditional
Yeah.
tools that you associate, roots, oils, even candles,
Mhm.
right? Big part of my practice. The more modern approach, just kind of starting off, is energy work. I use the term energy work. It's my mindset and also adding in manifestation. Um, the bigger thing is I don't work with any Bible verses. That's the
Mhm.
big version. Modern hoodoo is what I'm calling it, the modern version of hoodoo. Um, I don't want to reference, but I took a long time to have my own spiritual evolving, and part of my evolving was deconstructing and decolonizing a lot of what I believed in. And one of the things that had to eventually go for me, for it all to make sense, was releasing the Bible. So I still wanted the roots. I just didn't want to add the Bible passages with the roots. That's the biggest uh, difference between how most people talk about hoodoo. Um, I do think I'm still practicing my grandmother's or great grandmother's version of hoodoo. I'm just practicing it with a modern approach. That
Yeah.
modern
And that makes so much sense. And I
approach.
think that that is how, most modern practitioners or most practitioners in this stage, it becomes this inner balance. You just kind of put both of them together. Um, but I feel like that is what we all do, actually. It's a little bit of the traditional and some modern practice because we have more things available to us. Why not use them?
Yeah, that's what I say.
Yeah. So,
You
and
can
take that.
blend in modern um, concepts, Reiki. You
Yeah.
can you can blend in, like I said, manifestation in the way that most people are familiar with manifesting, where maybe you're creating a vision board and you can add that into your hoodoo practice. It doesn't have to be this other thing that you're doing. And the thing about it is most modern practitioners or people who are spiritualists, they're already doing that now.
Right. And really, with the Reiki, that's just ashe.
Yeah.
That's that energy, that universal energy. It's the laying on of hands. If you add that modern touch to it,
Mhm.
that's all that is basically. And then you, when in that same video, you talked about the suffering have to be always associated with hoodoo? And can you tell me about like what brought you to that and what inspired you to do that video? Because I really encourage, if you guys have not seen this video, when I do this, I'll put the link. This video was so good that I really wanted to pull it apart and really think through some things.
Okay. Frustration. It came from frustration.
Yeah, that'll do it, won't it?
It came from a frustration of seeing content, seeing how people talk about hoodoo, including people who say they practice hoodoo. Um, so much of the conversation is rooted in survival and suffering, which does make sense where
Mhm.
it comes from. I'm not saying that that's out of place, but what about celebration? What about abundance? What about love? What about beauty? It's a beautiful practice. All of those things are there as well. And I feel like there's so much on, get some money, get back at this lover, make him
Mhm.
and which is rooted in trauma, those things.
Yes, it
Lack
is.
mindset across the board. A lot of it's having a lack mindset. What if you're also within your practice focusing on abundance, but not, from a place of pain because I got to get this money for this bill, just
Right,
kind of
right.
being preemptive instead of being, proactive instead of reactive. What about those aspects as well? Um, Hoodoo can be about healing. I wanted to
Yeah.
talk about that and not just in reaction to suffering, but just a healing practice for you. You can ritualize your healing. It can be about thriving and spiritual elevation. I just wanted to start a conversation about that. I wanted to get past the hardships and revenge. There's a place for that, but
Yeah.
that's not the
Yeah.
only thing. And I feel if there's a lot of young people, young adults coming into this,
Mhm.
and they're feeling called to this practice. And it's just, you got people out here. I mean, this might be controversial, but I feel like there's a lot of people pushing poverty. Um,
I agree with you
and they
totally.
associate that with hoodoo. So people are dressing very, they're cosplaying what they think people look like low key on a plantation. Um, and we're not talking because people get confused when you start. They were like, "What do you mean?" Because they're wearing all white or they had their head wrapped, and those are things that are more associated with like ATRs, like
Yeah.
you made for a period of time, a year or whatever is agreed upon. People wear white. We understand. Well, some of us understand that this is not what we're talking about. This is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people who are literally getting, whether it's witch talk or TikTok or hoodoo talk or YouTube or Instagram, and they are cosplaying basically somebody on a plantation with the rap and they're truly to me kind of it's an aesthetic. We talk about this with witches of European descent, but
Mhm.
realistically, we are doing that too. Some of us are doing that too, where we want to create this aesthetic, but the aesthetic is given plantation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the part that frustrates me is the people who are drawn to that because the same way the tea stain grimoires draws a certain, when people see that draws them in because it looks more authentic, the same thing is happening with us. And we're cosplaying um that look. And if you look like that, then somehow you're more knowledgeable. You really know the real stuff. That's just not true. That was what was really frustrating me, and I wanted to show one, you don't have to present this way to be taken seriously, and also celebration and joy. I extend that to how I present. I love my beautiful pink colors. I like wearing a bright lip. I like wearing my fun glasses and stuff like that. It's just an extension of my joy, of just my internal joy.
And I think that those are some valid points because I know you had mentioned it to us. We're in the same coven, so I'm not making that a
Yeah.
secret or anything like that. We had talked about it, but I really hadn't seen a lot of, I don't look at TikTok as much as some of the other social media forms. And I went and I looked and I was like, wow, because um, sometimes we are progressing, and I feel like we should not be ashamed of the progression that we've had in our lives as Black people, as spiritual practitioners, as spiritualists. We shouldn't be, that's what our ancestors fought for for us to have this elevation, for us to be able to do things that they could only dream of. We're their dream. And nothing wrong, I head wraps and stuff, I love them, nothing wrong with that.
Yes, nothing wrong.
But I just feel like that poverty, why are we calling in a poverty mindset? Why
Mhm.
are we calling in that? And if you got a beautiful rap, be beautiful, because that's what we are. You know
Yes.
what I'm saying? And I think that may be controversial, but it's not really about how you, it's really, and hoodoo is an internal spiritual thing.
Yeah.
But we have to, I think we need to celebrate and concentrate on that. And I have no problem with, it's just me as a woman, and as a combining my divine feminine with
Mhm.
hoodoo. I want to present myself in the best light. So,
Especially if you are selling services.
mhm,
I
mhm,
I'll be honest with you. I don't think it's appealing that it looks like you're struggling and you're selling services to help me with abundance and prosperity spells or workings. They don't go together, and I do think that does matter. But it doesn't look like it's working for you. How do I think
well,
it will work for me?
Well, and I'm gonna be honest, not that I do my own thing, okay? But I want to support other practitioners. So I
Yeah.
have gotten services. I've taken classes. I've bought things from other people. But I'm sorry, if you present like you're struggling, that's not my jive. And I'm not going to that's not going to be appealing to me. It is what it is.
Absolutely not. I have purchased, and we've talked about this. I've purchased spelled candles before from someone who is has a popular business, and they are a hoodoo worker. And I paid good money for that, and I believe it actually worked. I got my results. Um, but that I felt confident and comfortable exchanging my money for this product, the spelled candle, because there was more to it. The way they presented, I could see it looked to what I could see, what they were showing me, that whatever they was doing was working for them.
Yeah,
So I
yeah,
felt confident that okay, I can trust this, or at least I'm willing to try it. I've purchased oils from Etsy shops, but I'm very careful on how is this shop curated, who's behind it, and I look you up. I want to know what you're about, and I've purchased oils, and I felt confident. I felt confident in their qualities, what it was that I was purchasing, that it was going to do what they said it was going to do. So yeah, I'm same way. I've purchased books. I do a lot of witchy reviews, book reviews, and kind of sharing my quest as well to see, okay, well, let's learn some new stuff. Let's read this, and I'm going to share what we've learned. And it's hit or miss, especially in the hoodoo category.
yeah.
It's hit or
And,
miss.
and I do the same thing. I share books, not always, witchcraft period, but it's just to encourage us, or encourage a lot of people to read,
Mhm.
and my love of reading and that kind of thing. And that's why I love to take classes from other practitioners, because I always feel like, and I've been doing this for a while, but it's about, I'm a nurse by trade. So we have to take continuing education courses to stay relevant. And I
Mhm.
kind of feel like it's the same thing. Like, I want to see what other people are thinking. And I'm only going to take courses from you. I'm sorry, if you present in a professional manner. I don't want to pay money for somebody that does not present in a professional manner. That's just me. you know?
Contrary to what some I and this could be an age thing because I'm noticing
Yes, and I am a
yeah,
grown, so I'll say that.
the younger adults, they tend to come they have that come as you are. Some of them, not all. Some of them have that approach. So, I make concession for that. Um, However, it's hard. I'm distracted. For somebody like me, I'm distracted by like, why do you, what's going on in the back? What's
What are you doing?
what are
Yeah.
you doing? Like, I want to hear your message, but I'm so distracted by everything else, what's being presented. There's a reason that the book jacket, the book cover matters. We do judge a book by its cover.
Well, and it's that attraction element. I like pretty things. I mean, and I'm not apologizing for that.
Yeah.
So that would be that. But I do, what advice would you give new witches? I don't like to say baby witches or anything like that because I
Um,
think that's demeaning, but new witches or new to the craft, either way.
the advice I would give is don't rush things.
Yes.
Um, you don't have to know everything right away. I mean, I kind of talked about in my practice, I didn't work with any deities. I attempted, it felt forced and fake.
Mm-hmm.
Inwardly, I felt fake doing it, so I just didn't. Um, your magic will grow as you grow.
Definitely.
Continue to stay curious, follow your curiosity, trust your intuition. I'm big on the intuition. That's how I even started Leap Taken, with this idea of um, how I realized as a young adult in my 20s, I spent a lot of time betraying myself, my higher self, by
Mm,
ignoring my intuition. Listen, that is your moral compass. That's your true guide. Really listen to your intuition and be open to following it. Your intuition is different from fear.
it
It's
is.
when it just feels right. It feels right in your spirit, feels right in your gut. That's like your instinctual thing as well. It all lines up, and then you're like, oh yeah, this makes sense. So follow that. Don't compare your practice to anyone else's. What's sacred to you is sacred to you. So how you do things and here's the thing, you don't even know if that's how you're going to continue to do things. Right now it makes sense. I started off Wiccan when I
Yeah.
first came in to spiritual, because that's what was available, and that was the bridge that one, it was the only bridge at the time available to me. I didn't have anybody else. I was fumbling around on my own. And I would also say, if possible, try to get a spiritual mentor if
It's
possible.
yeah.
I am open to the concept that sometimes your spiritual mentor might be a parasocial relationship, because maybe you're not in a position where you can physically meet with someone. Maybe you're not in a position where you can book something. I do uh, spiritual mentorship as well, but I recognize that that's not doable for everyone. So sometimes having your kind of one-sided relationship with somebody, you find someone, maybe somebody on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, or an author, and everything they write or the things that they say just makes so much sense to you. Build on that. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not saying copy them or be like them, but let that, in the beginning, that might be enough for you. That's okay. And people don't talk about that enough. That's a modern approach, because these are modern times. We have people we can follow, and really have a connection with, even though we've never met them, we've never talked to them. It's okay. I encourage people, hey, if you have questions within reason of that I can help you with, I encourage people to message me. Uh, and
Yeah.
and let's work something out. Let's see what's going on with you. Maybe it's just, you might be asking something that might be huge to you, and it's something I can just answer quickly, and you'd be like, oh wow, okay, great. That sets everything right for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's so important that we do consider like social media, and it's some great YouTube channels out there and other social media that are really teaching. We talk about the bad side of social
Yeah.
media,
Yeah.
But there is a good side, and there are people that are really teaching and mentoring people, though not, in a professional manner, but they're there. It's still professional,
Hmm.
but not in a manner where it's face to face. That would be better to say. And
It
that is
counts.
something that we can definitely take advantage of.
Yeah.
Okay. So we talked about, giving advice to new, but people don't really talk about what advice would you give to advanced practitioners. And I like to throw that in because, I've been doing it for a while, but I'm always learning something new.
Okay. Well, that's the key. Stay teachable.
That is the key. Yes.
They, you talked about classes, same thing. I encourage that, especially if somebody like summits and listening to other, you might find your favorite author or your favorite content creator, and they're part of a summit, and you discover some other people, and they might open your mind even more on things you've been doing for years. Stay in a place where you're open to learning new things. Don't forget to play. We've been talking about that with
Yes. Yes. Yes.
I realize as somebody who's been doing this for a very long time, um, happily, but there are times I forget to play, and I realize the state of the world, and we're going through different things in our lives. Some of us are getting divorces, and or you're moving away from people, or whatever your big life situations are. Your kids they're gone, they're adults,
Right.
and your life is changing. That weighs you down.
That
That's a
it
weight.
does.
The current state of politics, all of that can be, it can feel heavy. And you find that sometimes either you're doing magic where you're doing more magic for protection, and you're kind of in that kind of place where it's a little more tight. It's not a flow anymore. Um, you have to remember to play. You have to remember to just do magic for the sake of doing magic. The
Mhm.
whimsical aspect of magic, the part that attracted you in the very beginning, try to stay in touch with that. So I guess your inner child,
Yeah. Yeah.
know, flex that imagination more, get out of the mundane and try to remember the fun. Just whether for some of us it might be dressing up, cosplaying,
Yeah.
doing a ritual, if you're working with Fey magic, or work with Fey magic, that's playful. Well, not all of it, but it can be.
Yeah. It can be.
Um,
Yeah.
and just adding, like I said, the fun into it. Glamour magic has been a fun thing for me, working with glamour magic, and working from a love witch perspective, and adding those things into my practice has been really fun, because you play, you're painting on your face, you're painting your makeup on your face, whether you change your hair color, like all of that is so fun. And if you add magical intention to it, it makes it even more fun. But these are just some of the things I'm just saying. Play, just try to get away from being too serious about the craft. Um, and sometimes be a little mischievous.
That, yes. What they say, yes, yes, yes to all
Yeah.
of that. And I will say, our coven for me has helped me as an advanced practitioner, because you kind of I feel like you can get in a rut when you're a solitary practitioner. Well,
Yeah.
and even if you practice with a coven, that can still happen. But I will say about us, we'll try some different things. Everybody's personality, though we blend well, we also have our own, and we bring such different aspects and ideas. And even though I'm in my 60s, I just play and have a good time. We have a good time. That's all I'm saying to bring
Yeah.
it back down. We really have a good time. So that brings me into the next question.
Mhm.
As a high priestess of a coven, and you've been that for a number of years now, what insights have you gained about coven life?
Um, Coven life teaches you the power of community.
Yes.
That's why I started the Coven community, um, to begin with. I wanted community. I knew it was time. I had been working solid. I didn't know in how, I didn't have all details, but I just knew I was craving community. Um, so yeah, then boundaries.
Yeah,
It's
definitely had
also
learned that.
the importance of boundaries, communication, and shared intention. I can't say that enough. Um, every one thing I've had to learn is that every ritual doesn't resonate the same for everyone, and that's okay.
It is. It
I
is
gotta be
okay.
okay
It
with
is
that.
okay.
Uh, but when it does work, it's powerful, and
It,
there's nothing like it.
yes.
That's the piece missing in a solitary practice. Um, we had a retreat, an in-person retreat where we celebrated the summer solstice. And when we did that, we that was our first time because we're virtual. That was our first time all getting together. And within our ritual, we start off with a chant. And we were in a beautiful location,
We were.
nestled in the mountains of in Sedona, Arizona. And when we started chanting, the way our voices came together and vibrated, and it was like pure magic.
It was. I mean, even as you're talking about it, I'm almost getting goosebumps
I'm
because
getting chills talking about
it
it
was so
too.
powerful. And the other thing I want to say about the retreat when we did another virtual,
Mhm,
retreat, and that was good. But the retreat when we all got together,
mhm.
and we hadn't met each other. Of course, we see each other every week and stuff. But when we met each other, I was still surprised that we were just kicked it off like, and we had been knowing each other. But sometimes when you meet virtual versus really, you'll feel something different, but I didn't. I just was like, oh, my sisters.
It felt like home. And it's funny because I would say to you when I remember saying, I feel like we're related. I just, I feel like I'm your up north cousin. So it felt to me, it felt like, yeah, it felt like just getting together and, meeting up with family that you hadn't seen in a while in
It,
person.
mhm.
It didn't feel like, oh, I'm finally meeting these strangers. We had already been in an existing coven for years. We just hadn't physically all.
Right,
Some of us met together because we were living in close proximity. Because some of our sisters did actually meet. We just hadn't done it all together.
right, right.
But casting a spell with that many voices was intense in the best way possible. And the magic that we did that weekend has kind of stayed for at least
It,
for most, I think most of us that
we
were,
all great manifestations, like reality. It came into being. We all can talk about how things manifested from that.
yeah.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was so awesome. Okay. So we talked about coven life and you've done both. So on the other hand, let's talk about what were your insights and experience from being a solitary practitioner?
Um, I would say my solitary practice, one, I mean, your solitary practice is going to be personal. Everybody's is
Yeah,
deeply personal. Um, I would say you don't necessarily need all the things. I like the things.
I do too.
I like the things. I'm not gonna lie to you. I like the things. I mean, I like the things a little too much, but you don't need it though.
You
Uh,
don't.
you don't need the big altar. Um, I used to be obsessed with that in my early practice. That's why I'm even talking about this. I used to would go on Pinterest and I would see people with these elaborate altars
Mhm.
really fancy tools, and it looks like things that were really authentic, that whole aesthetic thing. But you truly don't need that. You just use what you have. I remember at one point not having access to an athame. When I first started, Amazon doesn't exist yet, y'all.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not, it's if it, I'm trying to think if it does, it's not in the way that we know it. But um, I took a butter knife and I made that into my athame. I like put some so I don't know. I made something out of something with it. I don't even remember, and I don't still have it. It's been a long time, but I wanted an athame really bad, so I made my athame with a butter knife. Um, but you work with what feels right to you.
Mhm.
Solitude shouldn't be isolation though. Like solitary practice, your solitary practice doesn't mean you have to isolate. Even if you're not in a coven, I think you should find people
Mhm.
who even they're solitary too, but find a friend, a witchy friend, if anything, or a group or something like that,
Yeah.
where you're kind of sharing. I don't think you should just be completely separated in your practice. Um, you can still connect and learn with others that still honors your independence. I, 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 I mean, technically, even though we're in a coven, all of our magic is not done in our coven. We're individual
So
with our own solitary practices. So I have found, even though I most of my practice has been as a solitary practitioner, I community is a big idea, a big deal, I think, overall. And if you don't have it, that's fine. Start with, maybe some people meet in a comment section on another video or,
yeah.
on a post or something like that. It might be there.
And I do feel like, because I've been or I had been, well, I feel like I have the best of both worlds. When you meet virtually, you still have, like, I have my coven life, which I treasure, and then I have my solitary practice.
Hmm.
That because I feel like, and as I think about it, even if you practice in a coven, but you still do things on your own, I guess we all, in a way, have the best of both worlds if you think about it that way. Yeah.
Yeah. Just make your practice a reflection of you,
Yes, that's the
regardless of
important
what your
thing.
situation is. Like it truly is what you want. You can do anything um you want to do. It can look and you can change it.
Yes.
And that's one of the perks of being a solitary practitioner. There, you don't have to explain to anybody. You don't have to have like some covens work differently where they do want you to do the magic together.
Right.
That's kind of the deal. But if you are kind of humoring or thinking about something like that, being a solitary practitioner is always gonna, I don't know, I would prefer that. Something like that, I don't like it. So I like the idea of being able to do what I want when I want without having to explain why or ask permission. I don't
Yeah.
want to do that either. No. So that I like being able to my practice to truly just be me. And it makes it I get something out of it that way.
And I think that even with us for Coven Life, you encourage all of us. Like we may do the same spell, but we all kind of put our own spin on it. Like there's always this place for individuality, and that's what I love about our coven. Also, that it's the hierarchy, though you are the high priestess, and we all appreciate that and love that you are, but there's still like we're colleagues also. So I don't
Yeah.
know how we do that balance, but we do, and it works well for us.
It works because there's an overall so for me, high priestess being a high priestess a lot is creating a ritual. It's not like all my ways all the time. There's input. And other times they're like, hey, you got it. We trust you. We don't have any input. Go ahead and do what you want to do.
Yes,
We'll
yes,
do
it's
it. We
there,
don't
and
have an
that's
issue.
often. Yeah.
So it works that way where there's trust and there's respect and it's both ways because I know I'm asking, hey, do you guys want to add anything? What do you guys want to do? Do you want to, how are y'all feeling? And sometimes I get the feedback, yeah, let's add this in, or other times, like I said, it's like, no, we have nothing. Do whatever you want. And I'm like, okay, since y'all said so, we're gonna do it like this, and everybody's cool with it. But it takes trust and respect to be like that.
Mhm. That is it, definitely. And I feel like we've reached that with what we for with each other. We all, I think, it's another thing that makes it work well for us. We all have our own solitary, and we have the coven, but
Yeah.
I also feel like we work together well because all of us come together with experience and we've learned, but we are, I feel like we're graceful in that we could work with others that maybe may not have as much experience. But I think that comes with something when you have that wisdom and experience.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think that's what
definitely.
works well for us. Well, let's talk about We're Witches of Color. Although our coven has a little bit of everything, so that's good. But there's something special and sometimes challenging about being a witch of color. Talk about your experience as being a witch of color.
Sometimes it's really empowering,
Mm-hmm.
and at other times it's exhausting.
Mm-hmm.
There's still a lot of, and I'm going to talk like gatekeeping and then
Mm-hmm.
erasure when it comes to our contributions as witches. So gatekeeping in a way where, believe it or not, amongst other witches of color, Black witches specifically, when I talked about hoodoo specifically, there's gatekeeping.
There is. There
And
is.
then I haven't even gotten to, you know, the ATRs,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
gatekeeping around that to people who look like me against me. That's frustrating at times. But a lot of times it's more empowering than not. I like being a voice in a sea of people who look nothing like me. I like being that that black dot in this. I like, you know, elevating myself, putting myself out
Yes.
there because I know, the past me was looking for me. I was looking
Yeah.
for somebody like me. I was looking for my voice. And to see someone who sounds like me and looks like me. So that's why I do it. My experience in the witchcraft community has been to just be that voice, be that person, and put myself out there. Now, in the beginning, the exhausting part, honestly, I did more in-person stuff in the beginning of my practice, and I experienced not just on the internet, like firsthand racism of going to something. I saw meetup.com before there was the app, meetup.com, and I remember going to a couple different events there at like and yeah, well, they were, yeah, different meetup groups. I'm
Hmm.
trying to remember the names of what they called it, but anyway, I would go and the people would always be taken aback that I was there. And some people were nice, wasn't all bad, but some people, I've heard like the whispers. It
Hmm.
didn't happen all the time, but this was an incident where somebody was like, they, I don't remember the exact words, like, why are they here? Why do they do this? But like, this is our thing or something along those lines. And it's like, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some people in the group were being very welcoming. That set of people had an issue. It happens, unfortunately. But I will say from those days, it's one thing that is happening online. Online, I notice a lot of people think that's the worst of it, but at least you could just like delete it or say something.
Right.
In person is different. In person is a different thing. Um, it hits hard in that situation. And I'm so, and the whole time I would go to these events, I was always hoping I wasn't the only Black person there. And sometimes I wasn't the only Black person. It might have been somebody who was not maybe Black, but they weren't white. I don't, um but I did have a really good experience one time, and that's the first time I tried mead.
Hmm.
And we participated in the ritual. We were in someone's
Okay.
yard, and that was really, really nice, and it felt welcoming. And they were working with a more Nordic mythology, or yeah, I don't remember all the details. This is like, I don't know, my kids were little. Like one of my kids
Okay.
hadn't hit puberty yet. Now he's an adult. So I don't remember all the details, but I just remember my takeaway that being really exciting. But being visible in this space to me is an act of magic. Back to our hoodoo roots, to be outwardly talking about this, For
Yeah.
anybody to come across and hear me talking and showing things off and creating a hoodoo grimoire to do the same thing, to encourage other people to do the same thing, to me, that's an act of resistance.
It
That's
is.
magic. That is pure magic. That so we've come so some of us, we've been able to come so far where I could just be this vocal about it.
Right. It's awesome. I mean, and I don't have a big channel, but I'm out here basically for the same thing because even now I didn't have a lot of interaction because I was solitary for a long time. And then when I did meet people, they were people of color. So I didn't have a lot of interaction the opposite way. And
Mhm.
here in the last maybe 8 or 9 years, I've kind of, included other people and learned some different things from other traditions and stuff, which I have enjoyed. It was the gatekeeping, which gatekeeping is okay at a place. We got to gatekeep,
Yeah.
but there's also like it's another extreme too. We got to find a balance of where that is where I feel like we have to work for.
I do believe we need to find a balance. The one of the questions I think that is still pervasive is the initiation aspect.
Yes.
There are people who are standing on business that specifically with an ATR, you have to be initiated. I do want to say this, you don't have to be initiated to practice hoodoo. There is a lot of miscommunication about that. And I think people are doing that because they want to create something and have people pay. It's a cash grab.
Yes.
But you don't, to practice hoodoo, there is no initiation component to that. Now, if you're talking something from like, like Ifa or something, or your Yoruba-based spiritual system, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, when you're talking about voodoo, there's initiation with that, but not hoodoo.
Right.
A lot of people get that confused.
And there isn't, and I know that there are people who try to initiate and who do, and
Yeah,
people come up with different houses, which that is a group of hoodoo practitioners maybe that work together. And that's whatever you do personally, but as an overhaul, we don't really have initiations, which is one of the reasons why I am attracted to that. I and I think that for a lot of people in our coven or whatever, I feel like we're pretty independent spirits, and so I feel like we've met our mix of independent spirits, and we have learned to work together. Um,
yeah.
and I think that basically, if you got with a group, it would have to be a group that you mesh well. So yeah. So we're coming to the end. Tell us about how people can reach you, about the books, what you got planned in the future and the horizon, and how can people contact you?
Okay, so I'll work backwards. You can
Yes.
contact me at leaptaken.com. That is my website, leaptaken.com. The books are available for purchase there, first and foremost. And there's no shipping if you purchase through the website. Also, they're available on Amazon as well. So the books are the Hoodoo Grimoire, which this is literally my copy. My copy that I actually work in. The Hoodoo Grimoire, I have the Book of Shadows for the Love Witch and the Book of Shadows for the Hearth Witch. Um, these books they have spells, actual spells, rituals, correspondences, all that, and specifically for each path that I'm representing. However, the books have blank pages as well for you to continue your journey. So it's not about me telling you, because I kind of take the same philosophy from being a high priestess of a coven. I'm not trying to make you into the type of witch that I am or do the work that I do exactly. I'm giving you something to get you started. And then the whole purpose of this is for you to continue and fill in the pages. So there's the front-facing content is all these goodies, relevant information to the practice, and then the rest are blank pages, beautiful blank pages, and each one is unique for you to fill in with the rest of your journey, with your spells, your rituals, your practice, your thoughts, dreams, signs, symbols, correspondences. So that's what the books are all about. They're also all available on the TikTok shop as well, by the way. So that's been fun selling over there. By the way, this is very popular on the
And,
TikTok
and
shop.
it should be because it's good. And I love that you allow people, because I'm using mines too and putting things in there. I love that part. Yeah.
Um, Also, you can find me at here on YouTube at Leap Taken. That's the name of the channel, Leap Taken. And again, the second channel, Magical Lifestyle of a Cottage Witch, is also where you can find me. Yeah, and as far as upcoming, I'm working on something. Kind of, it's a book, but wanting to, I want to meet different types of readers where they are. So there's some people who like to be sort of led through the process of recording
Right.
their practice and how they learn. So I'm creating something to sort of lead you. Uh,
Awesome. So look forward to that. I want to thank you so much for doing this. It was so much fun. And I even learned some new things about you that I didn't know. So that's cool. So thank you once again. Do you have any last thoughts or words you want to leave with us?
the only thing I would just want to say about, just witchcraft in general, as someone who is literally living my own magic, living my practice,
Or,
practicing what I preach, um, have fun.
oh,
We
yeah.
are the times that we are living in. Every day there's breaking news, there's something, and a resistance to that. I'm not saying be completely unaware and check out completely. Don't do that because we have to keep our head on a swivel right now. However, try to find that balance of still remembering to celebrate the little things, whatever that is for you, whether it's pagan holidays, whatever. Try to find ways of celebrating, connect to joy, play. Try to release some of that seriousness. Believe in your magic. So if you're casting protection spells, whether it's an amulet you're wearing, whether it's a bag, whether it's a ward around your home, or all of those things, believe in them, believe that they work, and rest in the knowledge that you did what you were supposed to do. That spell is cast and it's going to work, and actually play and have fun. But it takes you believing that what you put out there, that boundary that you put around, will hold long enough for you to rest, for you to play, for you to still just experience being a witch, being having your human experience and find those joys. That's what I would say. That's something I'm actually working on, so I'm advocating that for others right now.
Awesome. And I feel like knowing you that that is all true and that you do indeed do that. And well, guys, that is it. Thank you for being here. I hope that you had as great a time and I had a great time. So thank you all. And I'll talk to you soon. Be you, be powerful, and be powerfully you. Goodbye.